Hello, everyone. If I could have your attention up here, please. If I could have your attention up here, if you could please take your seats. Good afternoon, everyone. Hello there. My name is Bruce Sellery, and I'm the president of the Canadian Club of Toronto. Thank you very much for joining us today. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are meeting on the traditional lands of many Indigenous peoples over the centuries, most recently the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, on whose territory we are gathering. We are grateful for the opportunity to meet on this land. The Canada we know today was built by our Indigenous peoples who have been here for thousands and thousands of years, and by our immigrants who have been arriving consistently for hundreds and hundreds of years. Canada, perhaps more than any other nation on the earth, has a strong history of welcoming immigrants and refugees and enabling them to start anew, to build a life, and to contribute to this country's cultural life and economic prosperity. We are very pleased to welcome the Minister of Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship today, who has an announcement to make and a vision to share. Now, if you have a question that you would like to ask, in the center of your table is a little card that says Q&A on it. So right at the beginning, start thinking about what your question is, and then we'll have a few minutes after the minister's prepared remarks for us to ask him some particular questions. A couple other things to point out on your table. At the center, you will find some more information about the club, our social media handles, and how to sign up for our mailing list so you can find out about future events. There's two in particular that I'd like to highlight. One is March 3rd. It is our third annual Cannabis Outlook event. And on Friday, March the 6th, we'll hear from the Honourable Bill Morneau, Canada's Finance Minister, at a breakfast event. We hope you can attend one or both. It is now time to introduce our head table. Head table guests, please stand as I call your name and remain standing until everyone's name has been called. Audience members, please applaud after everyone's name has been called. The Honourable Marco Mendicino, Minister of Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship. Marco, they're like 8-year-olds. I just told them. No, you stand, and no one is supposed to applaud until the end. Oh, jeez. We'll take it. George Reese, Managing Partner, Immigration, EY Law. Lisa Lalonde, Chief Executive Officer, Century Initiative. Naseem Mithawani, Partner, Waldman Associates, Civic Action Diversity Fellow, 2018. Kate Bate, Co-Founder and Chair of Steering Committee, Together Project. Colleen Kennedy, Executive Director, Canadian Club Toronto. And Mike York, President, Carpenters District Council of Ontario. Now you can applaud. This is your head table. And you may be seated. I'm going to ask Minister for you to take one more second to select a winner from our business card draw. Dev is going to come up. This is, who carries business cards anymore? Well, today you're glad you did, and you're glad you put it in that bowl, because the winner will receive a gift certificate courtesy of Air Canada, our official airline partner, and the winner is
Bashir Bakshi.
Bashir Bakshi. All right. We'll come find you. Congratulations. We'll come find you. Now, a couple other thank yous to make in addition to Air Canada for providing that gift certificate. I would like to acknowledge today's event sponsors. They are the Carpenters District Council of Ontario, represented by Mike York, and also EY LLP and Business Immigration Services, represented by George Reese. Thank you very much to you both for your support. We appreciate it. I'd also like to thank Bell Canada and Simon Dwyer, who have sponsored the participation of the youth and young leaders joining us this afternoon from the Ryerson Immigration and Settlement Studies program. Ryerson, where are you? Yes, there they are over in the corner. Round of applause. Thanks, Ryerson. Thanks to Bell Canada and Simon Dwyer. Now it is time to introduce our speaker. Minister Marco Mendicino represents the Eglinton-Lawrence riding and was recently appointed to the... Yeah. Wow. Do you have any money left after you bought all these tables, Minister? He was appointed to the federal cabinet role as Minister of Immigration, Citizenship, and Refugees. He leads the development of immigration policies that contribute to economic growth and that reunite families. It's also important that these policies reinforce Canada's commitment to supporting vulnerable communities. Before his current role, Mendicino served as Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Infrastructure and Communities. He represented the minister in getting innovative green infrastructure built nationally. Another parliamentary secretary role included assisting the Minister of Justice and the Attorney General of Canada. In this position, Mr. Mendicino worked on issues such as criminal justice reform, reconciliation with Indigenous peoples, and restorative justice. A passionate advocate, he has dedicated his career to keeping our communities safe. As a federal prosecutor for nearly 10 years, he fought against organized crime. He also worked at the Law Society of Upper Canada and served as president of the Association of Justice Council for 2 terms. Most recently, Mr. Mendicino co-ran a law firm that helps organizations enforce professional standards and resolve workplace conflicts. He has been an adjunct professor at Osgoode Law School and was a regular conference speaker here in Canada and around the world. Minister Mendicino, I turn the Canadian Club of Toronto podium over to you.
Bonjour tout le monde. Thank you, Bruce. You know, as a journalist, I can't tell you how grateful I am for that suspiciously brief introduction. And I'd also like to echo the acknowledgement that we are indeed on the traditional territories of the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Haudenosaunee, and for your words to really acknowledge the significance that we do indeed share these lands, and for allowing us to start these proceedings in the right way. And good to see all of you. You know, I feel like I know a few of you out there. So, over the next 75 years, Canada shall be the star towards which all who love progress and freedom shall come. There are some living in this audience who, before they die, will see this country with at least 60 million of people. Who would have thought Sir Wilfrid Laurier would be seen as such a visionary when he uttered these words in 1904 before Massey Hall, not far from here? The answer is no one. Back then, the math made sense. But 116 years later, we know that while Laurier was off somewhat in his predictions, he was ultimately right in his long-term outlook. The only difference is that today, the need for us to continue growing is no longer a luxury or really even a choice. In 2020, the future of Canada hinges on immigration. And for this reason, we are going to need to start a dialogue that will fundamentally change the way we think about immigration. Far too often, we ask, how much is too much? But is that the right question? Domestically, our birth rates have slowed, retirement rates are skyrocketing, and people are living longer than ever before. But even with the progressive policies such as the Canada Child Benefit Plan, which is helping to grow hundreds of thousands of families, we still will not move the dial significantly enough to lower the age or replenish our population for the foreseeable future. So, the real question shouldn't be how much is too much. Rather, how many people do we need to guarantee a prosperous future for Canada? One in which we can renew our workforce, attract global talent, secure our health care and retirement covenants, and fill this vast, beautiful, and diverse country. In order to create this shift, we in government can't do it alone. We need you, as well as your ideas. Vous, les chefs d'entreprise, les chefs de syndicats, les professionnels, les partenaires dans cette salle, avez un rôle incroyablement important à jouer dans cette conversation. And that's why I'm excited to be here. Not just to give this scene-setting speech, and trust me, my wife Diana is here to keep me on the clock, thank you for that, but to engage and to learn from you. Because when we welcome, we grow. We face some challenges on the horizon as a population, but we can navigate them with effective immigration policies so long as we understand an important few demographic trends. We hit a big milestone in 2016. It was the first time in our history that there were more Canadians over the age of 65 than under 15. Today, there are 6.5 million people over 65. That's roughly 17% of our population. The percentage of those over the age of 75 will more than double between 2011 and 2046, increasing from roughly 7% to 14.5% in that time frame. And the average life expectancy for Canada is now 82.5 years old. In 1960, it was just 71. By 2036, the number of seniors could reach between 9.9 and 10.9 million people. And when you combine these figures with the fact that our fertility rate is 1.54, you arrive at two simple and inevitable conclusions. We're living longer, and we're not replacing ourselves. In addition, Canadians are also retiring faster. According to StatsCan, the average age of retirement was 64 years in 2019. Let's take a few snapshots that illustrate the worker-to-retiree trend. In 1971, for every working age people of 100, there were 15 seniors. Today, there are 25 seniors per 100 working age people, so roughly 4 workers for every 1 retiree. And in 2036, there are projected to be 39.5 seniors per 100 workers. And when you go on to 2056, the stats predict that we will have just 2 working members for every retiree. So why the rapid decline? In short, baby boomers. The 9.6 million Canadians born between 1946 and 1965 are leaving the workforce and will continue to in waves. And to our parents, and my dad is here as well. Hi, Dad. How are you? Yes. Didn't mean to do that. It was an impromptu moment. And to those of you who've got grandparents, we say thank you and bless you because you've earned it. But it does mean more pressure will be put on the public purse. That's because there will be a smaller fraction of the population making source contributions to pay for pensions, healthcare, education, employment, insurance, and other critical infrastructure needs. These accelerated retirements are also coming at a time when there is currently low unemployment and increasing labor shortages. A 2018 BDC report found that about 40% of Canadian SMEs are having real trouble hiring new employees, a direct link between a shortage of workers and slower growth in sales, and that the sectors facing the strongest headwinds included manufacturing, retail trade, and construction. Ironically, the study also found that among the strategies used to find workers, entrepreneurs were least likely to consider hiring newcomers to Canada. Et c'est pourquoi nous devons redoubler d'efforts pour dialoguer et faire comprendre à tout le monde que la solution passe par l'immigration. Understanding the challenges around aging, retirement, and labor shortages is an eye-opening experience for many, but it's only half the story. The other half requires exploring solutions. Now, I'm not here to persuade you that immigration will solve every single challenge with our population or our economy, but it is a lever, and a big one at that. The facts are that as of today, nearly 80% of our domestic population growth, 80%, is based on immigration. And a Conference Board of Canada report predicts that that number will increase fully to 100% by 2033. So what is the role of federal government in framing the policy architecture around immigration? Those of you who are policy wonks out there, and I know there are a few, know what a mandate letter is. And for everybody else who's got better use of their private time, my number one job from the Prime Minister is to grow the country by over 1 million immigrants over the next 3 years. And I'm looking forward to unveiling my plan. It's right there in the letter. I'm looking forward to unveiling my plan in the coming weeks. Je suis donc ici pour vous parler de cela, de nos priorités. Comment nous le ferons stratégiquement pour soutenir l'économie et répartir les avantages de l'immigration à travers le pays, Pour que nous réussissions vraiment, il faudra le partenariat et le soutien actif de personnes comme vous. In the meantime, I want to give you a high-level overview of last year's performance and then concentrate on a few significant initiatives which I hope will inform our discussion afterwards. 2019 was a banner year for immigration in Canada. We welcomed approximately 341,000 new immigrants, exceeding our targeted goal of 330,800 people. From this number, a strong majority, roughly 60%, were admitted under the economic class. We also maintained positive trajectories for family and refugee class sponsorships. And I want to underline that our government will always be a leader when it comes to reuniting families and resettling refugees. And to those of you who work in that space, I say thank you on behalf of our government. I had the occasion recently to travel to Geneva to the UNHCR's first ever Global Refugee Forum just before the new year. In fact, it was my first trip abroad in my capacity as minister. And I can tell you unequivocally that Canada is seen as setting the gold standard when it comes to community sponsorship and our work in the humanitarian sphere. And I will never forget, ever, taking my daughter Michaela to Pearson International when she was just 8 years old to welcome those first few Syrian families. It was one of the most profound moments that I've had, not only as a parliamentarian, but as a father. And to be able to pass that on to our daughter and to see her still remember it and recall it today is a source of immense pride. And I remember it was actually Diana's suggestion, and I'm always wiser when I'm following her suggestions. It's taken me some time to discover that, but thank you. The reputation we enjoy is not because of government. We owe it to our stakeholders and to the thousands of decent Canadians who roll up their sleeves and do the hard work. We owe our successes to the refugees themselves, who are not, let me repeat, not just victims, and we should not let them be stigmatized as such. They're doctors, engineers, contractors, lawyers, artists, musicians, and entrepreneurs. And when I welcomed Mustafa Ayalo as a member of our delegation, it was the first time a refugee had ever been invited to the floor of the UN in that official capacity. We extended this invitation not merely as a gesture, but literally to show the world that refugees need a seat at the table if we are to develop effective new partnerships for their integration into our communities and, yes, into our labor force. And on that note, let me shine a light on a few big success stories when it comes to our economic pathways. First, the Express Entry program. This is the fast lane for immigrants who possess the skills and experience necessary to hit the ground running. The numbers say it all. 95% of the participants have jobs, 83% in their primary occupation, and 20% earn more than non-Express Entry principal applicants. Express Entry is the flagship of our economic admissions, but it's not the only area where we're excelling in economic immigration. There's also the Global Skills Strategy. Launched in 2017, this initiative makes it easier for Canadian businesses to attract the talent they need to succeed in the global marketplace. Companies using the global talent stream have committed to create over 48,000 jobs for Canadians and permanent residents, and over 12,500 paid co-op positions, and investing more than $113 million in skills and training. Over the first 2 years of the Global Skills Strategy, 40,000 participants benefited from a 14-day application processing time. That is incredibly fast. One of the questions I want to put back into your court is, how can we significantly upscale this program because it really is a game changer for employers? The Startup Visa program is yet another way in which we are supporting entrepreneurs with the skills and potential to build businesses in Canada that are innovative and job creators for Canadians who are ready to compete on a global scale. Originally created as a pilot, it was made a permanent program in 2018. As of May 2019, more than 650 entrepreneurs and their family members have been approved for permanent residence, and they represent about 200 startups that have been launched in Canada. And finally, Canada has created a number of highly innovative and community-driven pilot projects to address the diverse labor market needs across the country. The Atlantic immigration pilot is the most advanced among them. It's like literally the most popular one among my colleagues from that part of the country. Championed by provincial governments, municipalities, and local business leaders, this 3-year project was launched in 2017 and was aimed at ensuring the long-term retention and integration of newcomers in the Maritimes and Atlantic Canada. Since its inception, nearly 3,000 permanent residents have been admitted to date. The progress has been spectacular, and it's why we're committed to making the AIP permanent. One of the things we know about settlement patterns in Canada is that immigrants gravitate towards urban centres. But there's an incredible opportunity beyond the big city life, notwithstanding my biases, and that's why we introduced the Rural and Northern Immigration Pilot. This 5-year pilot aims to distribute the benefits of economic immigration to smaller communities by testing a new pathway to permanent residence for skilled immigrants. And I'm looking forward to working with my colleagues, Ministers Monsef and Chagger, to see through the next stages of this program in conjunction with the 11 selected towns across Canada. And the last pilot I'll mention is the Municipal Nominee program. Now, this is a new concept where our plan is to tap into local knowledge and perspectives to further align the skills of aspiring newcomers with the needs of municipalities in an unprecedented and targeted way. We are still in the pre-consultation phase, and of course, I plan to work in close partnership with my provincial counterparts and stakeholders as we prepare to engage prior to the rollout of the MMP. So when you take all these measures and you put them together, it represents a comprehensive immigration plan that is working for Canada. We're placing an appropriate emphasis on economic immigration while remaining faithful to brand Canada pathways that seek to reunite families and protect vulnerable persons. Now, I believe we're on the right track, but we can't afford to be complacent. The world is an increasingly complex and competitive place. We have an opportunity to capitalize and ensure that Canada remains a beacon to attract the best and the brightest from around the world. Governments, businesses, labor, and stakeholders have to work together to meet the challenges ahead. There are many areas for us to collaborate in particular in temporary foreign work, international students, mobility, and foreign accreditation. And I'm looking forward to having that dialogue with you. But as we do, let's agree in this room to remain strongly united in the idea that immigration is a net positive for Canada. We say it all the time because Canada is ranked #1, and I love reposting those on my Facebook and on my Twitter. And our immigration system has been lauded by the OECD as, quote, the benchmark for other countries when it comes to integration. And I will be traveling to Germany tomorrow to talk about Canada's success in integration and sharing it with a like-minded and close friend country. L'immigration est supportée par la population tant qu'elle est considérée comme ordonnée, fondée sur des principes et largement bénéfique pour le pays. At the same time, we must remain vigilant against some of the underlying ugliness. I'm reminded of the story not long ago about Sufi's Syrian restaurant on Queen Street. Last fall, the al-Sufi family closed shop in the face of racist threats and intimidation. But almost overnight, that hate was completely overwhelmed by a tidal wave of love and support from residents and customers. And they reopened their business, and they're thriving. That's the Canada I'm proud of, and I hope you are too. In closing, Canada is built on the strength of our immigration. We face a number of challenges on our horizon. However, continued growth in immigration will help to fill our labor shortages, drive growth, create new jobs, contribute to diversity, and secure our future. Governments cannot do this work alone. My commitment is to continue engaging with you to help shape Canada's economic immigration policies for the future. Through this collaboration, we will ensure Canadian businesses and workers have access to the resources they need to compete and win in the global marketplace, and guarantee that we remain the best country in the world. Thank you. Merci.
Excellent. We're staying up here.
Okay.
You're going to need the microphone.
Oh, okay.
I have one to ask. Is this on? Here we go. All right, so we have some questions. We have additional ones. Ooh, we've got some other question cards happening. Our staff will buzz around and pick those cards up and then bring them up to me. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah, the notes are down.
The notes are down.
gone. The notes are gone.
They're gone.
This is a very engaged audience. Your wife's here, your dad's here, your grade 4 teacher is here, your barber is here. I think you're somewhere.
Is Tony
I can't
here?
see.
Where's
Tony's
Tony?
here, yeah. So, and those of us who paid our way, we paid good money for a really lovely lunch. But which are the audiences who aren't here today who need to hear your message? Which audiences? And how do you reach them?
Well, I think there's two groups of people that I would like to speak to beyond the folks in this room, and it really is good to be among so many friends. One, to everybody who wants to come to Canada, to everybody who is living abroad, who's been displaced because of a conflict, a war, increasingly climate change, I say Canada is your best bet. It was for my family, it was for everybody in this room, and we need to continue to be that open, inclusive, and confident country. And the second group of people that I'm speaking to is every Canadian. I genuinely believe that the majority, the vast majority of Canadians do support immigration because we relate to it. It's in our blood. It's in the blood, sweat, and tears into building a new life in this country. And it is imperative that we keep the confidence in our immigration system with some of the policies that I've tried to touch on today so that we can continue not only to welcome people, but to build that future that I described.
There was a ton of news around the arrival of the Syrian refugees and the community groups that cropped up across this country to support their arrival. Mm-hmm. We're now through that initial wave, and this question is, how do you think volunteers can best complement the work of government? Well, I think volunteers are absolutely the lifeblood of the work that Canada does in welcoming new immigrants, in particular in resettling refugees. And I saw that in my community, in the faith communities right across this country, in ordinary civil society, people just stepping up. And that you need that enthusiasm, you need that sense of purpose, which is so uniquely Canadian. And what I would like to share with you is that the conversations that I had when I went abroad to Geneva were so reassuring because people look at Canada as this shining example. They really do. And they are asking us how it is that we're succeeding, and we're sharing those experiences. You know, there's a great prof, Jennifer Bond at the University of Ottawa, who's working as part of this think tank that is sharing the experiences of our community sponsorship program with other countries, you know, in Europe, in Africa. And what is so validating about that is that, I mean, clearly we're helping people who are displaced through no fault of their own to start the next chapter of their life. But what's equally true is that our communities are strengthened by it as well. And, you know, we've seen that occur, for example, with Tariq Hadhad, who some of you will recall is this great guy who started this business in Antigonish, Nova Scotia, of all places, called Peace by Chocolate. I went to his citizenship swearing-in ceremony, and for any of you who are having like a blah day, go to a citizenship ceremony. It is like chicken soup for the soul. I am telling you, it is the best. The looks on the eyes of people, the journey, the culmination of the effort to get to that milestone. And I try to tell them, don't ever let anybody tell you or take away that sense of pride. And we should all share that. And indeed, it goes right to our volunteers as well. So. This next question is quite a practical one and a policy one. The Rural and Northern Communities Pilot's a great tool for attracting workers. Could there be an entrepreneur stream also created in order to attract more businesses to these communities?
Yeah, I think that that's a really good question. And just to elaborate a little bit on the purpose of these regional pilots, it's to take it to that next more local, regional level as we are trying to understand what are the labor shortages, what are the needs of the particular parts of the country. And the AIP has been very successful because of that, because there's a really good specific understanding, a granular understanding of what local businesses need. There are about 2,400 or so local businesses and various chambers represented by that group who are helping us make the AIP a long-term success. But to the specific question around entrepreneurialism, we have this starter visa program, which I mentioned, and one of the things that I'm looking forward to engaging with business leaders, and particularly those who are entrepreneurs, self-starters, people who want to take that risk. I mean, SMEs are truly the engine of our economy. And some are here. There may be that next big idea abroad. We want them to come to Canada. Canada is a place to do business. It is a fantastic place to do. Absolutely. Canada is a place where we can still get big things done. And if it starts with an idea and immigration can be a positive lever in that regard, then we should look at initiatives just like that.
Canada's immigration policy seems to be on the opposite end of the spectrum in relation to other countries in the world. The question is, why do you think that is? And I'm going to add a supplementary question to that. We are very self-congratulatory about our immigration policies and all these great stories, and we're all super proud of it. But I think there's an element of what's going on in other countries that we should at least understand and be aware of, to be conscious that what we have in our culture around immigration is not a done deal, it's not a set thing.
I think that's right, and I tried to open up with all of you about how it's important to really remain vigilant, that the idea that we are this great, pluralistic, diverse country is not a foregone conclusion in perpetuity. You have to work at it. And what it takes is not just a government that will listen and will make decisions on policy based on evidence, and that's certainly something that I try to adhere to, and I genuinely believe our government does. It takes you. And really, the purpose, or if there's one thing that I would like you all to take away, it's that sense of purpose. It's that sense that we do have to continue to remind ourselves that what makes Canada an increasingly exceptional country, with everything that is going on elsewhere, in Europe, abroad, is that sense that we really can coexist together, that diversity is a strength, that our inclusivity, our desire to be welcoming and open and compassionate and confident is a strength.
For anybody who's For anybody who has been in an Uber recently, we know anecdotally that there are so many new Canadians who have great English skills, who have PhDs, who have professional qualifications, but are working in jobs that are not a fit with what they've been trained to do. This question is, how is the Canadian economy ever expected to benefit from their skill sets when the private sector recruiters and job search algorithms do not consider those who don't have prior Canadian corporate experience?
And we hear about that all the time, anecdotally, and I know that it represents a challenge on both sides of the equation. For the worker who's got a great education or who's really good with their trades, who's looking for work, and from an employer, who can't just, for reasons that are inexplicable, seem to fill that job. And what I think the federal government can do, in partnership with our provincial counterparts, and I should take a moment to say that the provinces do play a very important role in this overall architecture through the provincial nominee program, is to try and really close that gap, to find an alignment between the skills and the accreditation and the recognition of those skills, regardless of what your vocation is, to that gap. Then we should be doing it. And we need to do it, I think, more and more quickly. And I referred to it, albeit briefly in my remarks, but The international students in this country, which are a huge economic driver, is a source. Temporary foreign workers who come and do seasonal work is a source. There are many innovative ways in which we can really facilitate and enhance integration, which is ultimately the way in which we accelerate productivity and growth. And that is one of the narratives I think we need to really channel our efforts on, in particular in government's partnership with business and with labor leaders right across this country.
Minister Mendicino, thank you very much.
Merci.
We appreciate it. Minister Mendicino, on behalf of the Canadian Club of Toronto, we want to give our heartfelt thanks for you making the time to join us at our podium and for your continued commitment to such an important part of how Canada will grow over the course of generations. Thank you for your work, thank you for your vision, and thank you for your passion for something that so many Canadians feel so strongly about. Before we close, just a couple of other thank yous. First to our sponsors, the Carpenters District Council of Ontario and EY Law LLP. Thank you very much for making our event possible. And to MediaEvents.ca, Canada's online event space, and VVC for live streaming today's event. To all of you who joined us and gave up some time over the lunch hour, thank you so much for making the effort, and enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you again. Thank you.